Stephen Curry has finally explained why the Warriors are where they are today, after missing 4 superstar targets, losing 2 key players to devastating injuries, and watching Golden State fall further behind. Curry admits this team just isn't good enough anymore, but what he says led them to this point may surprise you. Let me catch you up. The sentence he said in a small gym in Arkansas. It all started on July 25, 2026. Stephen Curry was at Moses Moody's youth basketball camp in Arkansas when Warriors insider Marcus Thompson II caught up with him. Thompson had traveled there to cover the event and speak with Curry during the offseason. The timing couldn't have been more important. Just one day earlier, LeBron James signed a 2-year deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, and Golden State was one of the teams he passed on. This was not a small miss. This was the myth. Draymond Green had declined his player option in late June, specifically to open up flexibility. And the whole plan was built around landing James, ideally alongside a trade for Anthony Davis, to form a big four around Curry. Weeks earlier, Curry had publicly described a pairing with James as a unique story in NBA history, talked up the Bay Area, and openly said he would love to play with him, and then it was over. A fan reportedly yelled the news at him while he was on a golf course. Video showed him glance at his phone and keep playing. So when Marcus Thompson finally got him on the record, everyone expected either anger or spin. What they got was neither.
In regards to possibly LeBron coming to the Warriors, he said, that's why you don't envision anything until it happens.
No blame, no name, no shot at the front office. Just a man telling you he has learned not to picture good things before they arrive.
There's lots of moving parts, which of course was true.
That quote traveled everywhere. It was on every show and every timeline within a day. But the quote that traveled is not the quote that matters. The one that matters came a few sentences later, when Curry stopped talking about LeBron James and started talking about his own team. And this is the part where the polite version of Stephen Curry steps aside for a second. 2 injuries, 2 names. And according to Curry, those 2 names changed the math of the entire franchise.
And he just said that, keeping this thing together, as in this Warriors team, and you know that Jimmy Butler got hurt and Moses Moody got hurt, and the whole calculus of everything changes.
He is not saying the Warriors got unlucky. He is saying the equation itself is different now. The inputs changed, so the answer changed, and no amount of hope puts it back.
How do you get through their absence and still stay at a certain level? And then how does that go into this year?
Now here's where it gets genuinely sad, and I want to be fair to Curry here because he was not complaining. He was asked what he is hoping for this season. Listen to how small the hope is.
He said, when he's talking about his hopes for the season, he said, you hope that both players, Butler and Moody, come back healthy and that we can play at a level that keeps us relevant and competitive. This is where the Warriors are, which Steph said.
He also said something else in that same answer, and it might be the most honest sentence of the entire summer. He said the team hopes to build a foundation so that we can figure out what it looks like, and then added, but that is the situation. We don't live in any alternative universe. We do not live in any alternative universe. That is a champion telling you there is no version of this where the cavalry arrives. And to his credit, nobody in that studio treated it as weakness.
By the way, he's being real here. I'm applauding this.
But 7 months before Little Rock, on a December night when Golden State blew a late lead and lost 99-98 to the Suns to fall to 13-15, Stephen Curry stood in a locker room and said this out loud with no hedging at all. If you're going to be a good team, you're able to overcome all of that. We're obviously not a good team right now because of what our record says and the fact that we found ourselves in these kind of positions. We are obviously not a good team right now. He said it in December. He confirmed it in July with a different vocabulary, and in between those 2 moments, everything that could go wrong for the Golden State Warriors went wrong in the exact order that would hurt the most. The receipts, or how a dynasty turned into a 37-win team. If you only look at the July headlines, you would think LeBron James broke the Warriors. He did not. He just turned the lights on in a room that was already a mess. The real damage happened months earlier on a Monday night in January in a game the Warriors were actually winning comfortably. Golden State had just gone on one of those runs that make you believe again. 4 straight wins, 12 of their last 16. Jimmy Butler had stabilized the whole operation since arriving. And then, with about 7.5 minutes left in the third quarter of a blowout win over Miami, Butler leaped to catch an entry pass, collided with Heat guard Davion Mitchell, and landed awkwardly on his right knee. He could not put weight on the leg. Teammates carried him off. The next morning, the news broke on national TV, and you could hear the air leave the season. The report came from Shams Charania, and it did not come with any softening language.
Jimmy Butler going down against the Heat last night. What more can you tell us there? Randy, sources tell me Jimmy Butler has been diagnosed with a season-ending torn ACL.
Not a strain, not a sprain, not week to week. A torn ACL for a player already in his mid-30s. And then the sentence that framed the entire next 18 months of this franchise.
His season is over. He faces a recovery timetable of really the next calendar year. And this shatters the hopes that the Warriors had this season of contending for a championship around Stephen Curry.
Shattered. That was the word used on live television in January. And looking back now, it was not dramatic. It was accurate. Butler had surgery in early February, and the operation went well. But ACL recoveries in the NBA typically run 9 to 12 months. And by late June, Butler said he was still about a month and a half away from being able to sprint at full speed, could only dunk off his left leg, and could not fully load the right one yet. He was honest about it and hopeful about it, but the realistic reporting pointed at a return somewhere around January or February of 2027. Now here's the cruel part. The Warriors did not even get to finish grieving that one before the next one landed. On March 23, in overtime of a road win in Dallas, Moses Moody stole the ball from Cooper Flagg and took off for a breakaway dunk. He was having the best night of a career-best season, 23 points, 3 steals, and then he planted to jump, and his left knee simply gave out. No contact, nobody near him. He collapsed. A towel was placed over the knee, and he was stretchered off. The MRI confirmed a ruptured patellar tendon. Surgery followed at the end of March. Doctors were encouraged, and he is expected to make a full recovery, but orthopedic experts put the typical return timeline for that injury at 9 to 12 months as well, with the added catch that getting explosiveness back can take even longer than getting cleared. Moody was a starter. Moody was shooting over 40% from 3 on a career year. Moody was the young wing this roster was supposed to grow around. And then there's the third injury, which is the one nobody wants to talk about because of who it happened to. Stephen Curry's right knee. He was diagnosed with patellofemoral pain syndrome, which most people call runner's knee, with bone bruising and inflammation. There was no ligament tear. Multiple MRIs showed no structural damage. That sounds like good news until you understand what it actually meant in practice, which is that he missed 27 straight games and 39 games total, and the Warriors went 13 to 26 in the games he sat. So let me put the whole season on one line for you, because the numbers tell the story better than any argument can. The Golden State Warriors finished 20-25-26 with a record of 37 wins and 45 losses, 10th in the Western Conference, 4th in their own division. That was their first losing season since 2019-20 and their first full 82-game losing season since 2010-11. They were 21st or so in scoring at 114.6 points per game, roughly 14th defensively, and around 20th in net rating. At home, they were fine. On the road, they were 15 to 26, which is the record of a lottery team, because that is what they were. They still made the play-in because the West gives you a lifeline. They beat the Clippers 126 to 121 on April 15 in a genuine comeback. And then 2 nights later, the Suns ended their season 111 to 96. And here is the detail from that Clippers win that tells you more about this franchise than the loss did. Watch how one analyst framed the celebration.
And quite frankly, the idea that the Warriors are going, or even a big move away from being a contender, it's not an idea that's based in reality.
That is not a fan talking. That is a professional describing the gap between the story the Warriors tell and the team that actually exists. And then he explained exactly why he felt that way, using the Warriors' own reaction as the evidence.
The reality is they won a 9-10 play-in game last year and celebrated like it was a monumental accomplishment.
Think about what that means. This is a franchise with 4 rings in a decade, throwing a party for surviving one elimination game against the 9th seed.
They celebrated not even clinching a playoff berth, a 9-10 win, earning them the right to play another play-in game in which they got beat and didn't make the playoffs.
And they did not even win the next one. The panel's read on that celebration was blunt, and it is the cleanest summary of the Warriors' current condition that anybody has offered.
But their celebration there told you everything you need to know about the state of the Warriors.
Now add the offseason on top of the injuries, because the front office did try. That part is true, and it deserves saying. They chased Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Bucks sent him to Miami instead. They talked to Boston about Jaylen Brown, and the price was somewhere around 4 first-round picks, so they walked away. They pushed hard for Anthony Davis, and Washington shut the door, and then they lost LeBron. The panel ran the list in about 7 seconds, and hearing it back-to-back is brutal.
Look, they tried for Giannis, couldn't get him. They tried for Jaylen Brown, couldn't get him. Tried for Anthony Davis, couldn't get him. him, tried for LeBron, couldn't get him.
4 swings, 4 misses. So what did they actually add? They drafted Yaxel Lindeborg at number 11, a pro-ready forward who won Summer League MVP and looks like a genuinely useful player. They brought Draymond Green back on a 1-year deal worth around $27.7 million. They kept the veterans, and that is it. That is the answer to a 37-win season, which is exactly why the next question stopped being about the roster and started being about Stephen Curry himself.
August 29th and the exit nobody wants to say out loud.
Here is the thing that turns this from a bad season into a real crisis. Stephen Curry is in the final year of his contract. Not a player option, not a team option the last year, and it happens to be the biggest single season number of his career. $62 million for one season at 38 years old on a team that just won 37 games.
And let me explain to you. He is in the last year of his contract. No player option or anything like that. This is the last year. It's $62 million. Huge number. He's worth every cent.
There is a date circled on every Warriors calendar, and it is not opening night.
On August 29th, he has the opportunity to sign a 2-year extension. If he wants all the money, and he has earned it in spades, he can get 2 years and like $135 million.
2 more years, roughly $135 million. Nobody thinks the Warriors would hesitate to hand it over. That is not the question. The question raised by Marcus Thompson himself is whether Curry chooses not to sign it.
And it was even posed by Marcus Thompson in this story. If Steph wants to apply pressure to the Warriors, would he hold off on signing that extension to make sure that they can
not sign? Wait, let the deadline pass and let the front office feel it. The reaction show put the same idea in even plainer language, and it is the reason this story has legs.
The longer it takes for him to sign a contract extension, the more you can bet Curry's using potential free agency as a tool to keep the Warriors pushing towards that end.
Free agency as a tool, not as an escape plan, as a lever. What Curry wants has never been complicated. The reporter who knows him best spelled it out.
He wants to win. He wants the best team the Warriors can assemble around him. He wants a chance, a real chance for a deep playoff run.
Not a farewell tour, not a statue, a chance. Now here's where the debate splits, and it splits hard. On one side, you have Brian Windhorst, who was asked directly whether Golden State is in danger of losing Curry, and who said no, but watch how he gets there, because in his version, Curry refusing to sign is not a goodbye. It is a setup.
The Warriors are in trouble of losing him. It could possibly mean the Warriors are plotting another giant move, because Jimmy Butler's in the last year of his contract.
Because of how the books line up, Butler's deal expires. Green is on a 1-year deal. Stack all of that together, and the number he lands on is enormous.
Clear $130, $140 million in cap space if they want, if Steph agrees. And so while the Warriors are not in a good position now, I know they tried to get Giannis and didn't get him.
Even inside his own optimistic case, he concedes the present. He then ran the same list of misses before making his one real argument. The NBA changes fast.
Look what the Sixers were 8 weeks ago, and then apply this to the Warriors.
That is fair. It is also a hope, not a plan. And on ESPN's Get Up, he was blunt about the present, saying flatly that they absolutely are not championship contenders right now, calling a healthy Butler version of this team a top 8 squad in the West, rather than a threat. Then there is the other side of the table, and the other side does not want to wait. The case against patience is simple. They have been trying this for years and keep missing.
Yeah, hand raised is one of those people, Wendy, that's going to give up on the Golden State Warriors. I'm out on them. Like, we've seen it year over year, right? It's not as if they weren't trying to sniff around Kevin Durant last year, didn't end up landing him. He goes to Houston.
And having the assets has never been the problem. Using them is. And then came the comparison that should scare every Warriors fan watching this.
It still hasn't enabled them to be able to land the plane. And what we've seen throughout the course of NBA history and sports overall is when you have an all-time great player, it usually doesn't end well when they end with the original team that drafted him.
History is not kind to legends who stay. So where does that leave the Warriors right now? They have an aging core, with Curry entering his 18th season, and real durability questions around Green, Horford, and Porzingis. They have 2 of their best wings rehabbing knee surgeries. They have 1 promising rookie. Analysts have described the franchise as being in purgatory, not competitive enough for a title around Curry, and not rebuilding either. And they have Stephen Curry, who has spent his entire career being the most loyal superstar in the sport, quietly telling anybody who is listening that he understands exactly what is happening.
Steph has never really threatened to go anywhere, and the Warriors know that, and that's why they've been able to do the things that they've been doing.
That is the most important sentence in this story. The Warriors have operated this way because Curry never made them nervous.
If Steph kicked it a completely different way, then we will be having different conversations.
And the read on that Little Rock interview from people who have watched him for a decade is that something in the tone was different this time.
I think this is the first salvo of hey, don't take me for granted here.
Which brings us back to the question nobody in the organization has answered.
It's all going to be on the franchise to quote unquote do right by him.
What does that actually mean now with this roster in this conference?
But what does doing right by Steph Curry mean at this stage?
Nobody has answered that. Not the analysts, not the front office, possibly not Curry himself.
That is the question that we all kind of have at this point.
He never said the word trash. He said realist. He said calculus. He said relevant and competitive. He said we do not live in any alternative universe. But go back to December when the season was still young enough to save. And he told you the whole thing in 9 words. We are obviously not a good team right now. Everything since then has just been the Warriors proving him correct. August 29 is coming. What he does that day will tell you more about the state of this franchise than any press conference ever could. If you enjoyed this video, click on the boxes playing on your screen to watch similar content.